You're not looking at the bigger picture here, Sarah. Alexander Blackwood's voice was smooth as aged whiskey, but there was steel beneath the surface. Sometimes the numbers need a little adjustment to keep investors happy. I sat across from the CEO's massive desk in Summit Financial's downtown Chicago headquarters, my laptop open to the spreadsheets that had kept me awake for the past 3 nights. As Chief Financial Officer, I was responsible for every number in those files, and those numbers told a story that made my stomach turn. "These aren't adjustments, Alex," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "This is fraud. We're talking about $2.4 billion in misreported assets." He leaned back in his leather chair, sunlight glinting off his Rolex as he gestured dismissively. "Every major firm does this. It's how the game is played. You've been CFO for what, 8 months now? Trust me, this is normal." But it wasn't normal. Not even close. I had spent 15 years in financial services, working my way up from junior analyst to CFO of one of Chicago's most prestigious investment firms. I knew exactly what normal looked like, and this wasn't it. "The Miller account alone has $400 million in phantom trades," I said, turning my laptop to show him. "These transactions don't exist. We're reporting profits on trades that never happened." Alex's smile didn't waver, but his eyes hardened. "Sarah, let me be clear. Your job is to make our numbers work. How you do that is up to you, but those reports need to show a 15% quarterly growth. The board meeting is in 2 days." I closed my laptop slowly, buying time to control my rising anger. "And if I refuse? Then perhaps we need someone with a better understanding of corporate realities." His tone was still pleasant, but the threat was clear. Someone less naive. I stood up, clutching my laptop. "I'll have my response to you by tomorrow morning. Make it the right one," he called after me as I left his office. The walk back to my own office felt like moving through a dream. Everything looked normal. Analysts hunched over their computers, traders shouting into phones, the usual chaos of a busy investment firm. But now I saw it all differently, wondering how much was real and how much was carefully constructed fiction. "Everything okay?" my assistant Michael asked as I passed his desk. "You look like you've seen a ghost." More like I'd seen the ghost of my career, I thought, but I just nodded and closed my office door. Sitting at my desk, I opened my personal email and began documenting everything I'd discovered. The fake trades, the inflated assets, the elaborate web of lies that Alex had built to keep Summit Financial looking more profitable than it was. I attached spreadsheets, screenshots, internal memos, anything that proved what was really happening. A knock at my door made me jump. It was Jennifer Torres, our head of compliance and one of the few people I truly trusted. "Got a minute?" she asked, closing the door behind her. I nodded, minimizing my email. "What's up?" "You know what's up," she said quietly, sitting down. "I saw the real numbers, Sarah. We're not just talking about creative accounting here. This is serious." "Alex wants me to fix it," I said. "Make it all look legitimate for the board meeting." Jennifer's face darkened. "He's been doing this for years. The last CFO, Marcus Williams, he didn't retire to Florida like they told everyone. He left because he couldn't handle the guilt anymore." That was news to me. Marcus had been my mentor, the one who'd recommended me for the CFO position. He disappeared so suddenly 6 months ago, leaving only a brief email saying he needed a change. "Have you kept any records?" Jennifer asked. "Documentation of what they're asking you to do." I patted my laptop. "Everything. But what good does it do? If I don't play along, I'm fired. If I do, I trailed off, thinking of the potential consequences. If you do, you're complicit, she finished. And when this all falls apart, because it will fall apart, you'll go down with them. She was right. I'd seen enough corporate fraud cases to know how they ended. The higher up you were, the harder you fell. There's another option, Jennifer said, even quieter now. We could report it to the SEC. Better. I have a contact at the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. This is exactly the kind of case they live for. I stared at her. The FBI? Jennifer, we're talking about one of the most powerful firms in Chicago. Alex Blackwood sits on charity boards with senators. Which is exactly why they'd be interested. She pulled out a business card and slid it across my desk. Just think about it. But don't wait too long. After she left, I sat looking at the card for a long time. Special Agent David Martinez, FBI Financial Crimes Unit. My future could change with one phone call. My cell phone buzzed. A text from Alex. Dinner tonight? We should discuss your concerns privately. I knew what that meant. He tried to charm me, convince me to see things his way. He was good at that. It's how he built Summit Financial into a powerhouse, making everyone believe in his version of reality. Instead of responding, I began forwarding emails to my personal account. Every questionable transaction, every manipulated report, every conversation where the fraud was discussed. Years of evidence that would destroy the carefully crafted image of Summit Financial. At 7 p.m., my office phone rang. Alex again. Sarah? About dinner. I'm still reviewing the numbers. I cut him off. I'll have everything ready for the board meeting. He paused. The right numbers? You'll have your 15% growth, I said carefully, not technically lying. The board would see numbers showing growth. They just might not be the ones he expected. After hanging up, I looked at Agent Martinez's card again, then at my laptop, containing enough evidence to bring down one of Chicago's financial giants. Sometimes the numbers need adjustment, Alex had said, but some things didn't need adjustment. They needed exposure. I picked up my phone and dialed the number on the card. A calm voice answered on the second ring. Agent Martinez. I took a deep breath. My name is Sarah Reynolds. I'm the CFO of Summit Financial, and I need to report a massive fraud. There was a pause, then, Ms. Reynolds, can you hold for a moment while I switch to a secure line? As I waited, I glanced out my office window at the Chicago skyline. Somewhere in one of those gleaming towers, Alex Blackwood was probably congratulating himself on handling his troublesome CFO. He had no idea what was coming. We'll need you to keep your position for at least another week, Agent Martinez said, sliding a small recording device across the table. Can you do that without raising suspicion? We sat in a private room at the FBI's Chicago field office, where I'd spent the last 3 hours detailing Summit Financial's fraud scheme. The evidence I'd brought had caused quite a stir. Agents had been coming and going, making calls, their faces showing increasing concern as they grasped the scale of what we were dealing with. Alex is expecting me to present doctored numbers to the board tomorrow, I replied. He thinks I'm working on them now. Perfect, Martinez nodded. We need that board meeting. Get him talking about the adjustments he wants you to make. Be specific. I fingered the recording device, smaller than a credit card, designed to slip into a jacket pocket. What if he searches me? He won't. Jennifer spoke up from her corner of the room. She'd come with me to the FBI. Her own evidence adding to the growing case. Alex is too arrogant. He thinks he's untouchable. The next morning, I arrived at Summit Financial wearing a wire and carrying 2 sets of spreadsheets. The real numbers showing the massive fraud, and the fake ones Alex expected. My hands were steady, but my heart was racing. "There's my star CFO," Alex called out as I passed his office. "Ready for the board?" I forced a smile. "Just some final adjustments." "Come show me," he said, gesturing me inside. Perfect. Just like the FBI had predicted. His own ego making him want to micromanage the deception. I sat down, opening my laptop to the fake numbers. "Walk me through it," he said, coming to stand behind my chair. Well, I began, the recording device capturing every word. "I've moved the Miller account's phantom trades through our Cayman subsidiary, then back through Singapore. Makes them harder to trace." Good, he murmured. "And the asset valuations? Inflated by 22% across all major holdings. It'll show the growth you wanted." He squeezed my shoulder. "See? I knew you'd understand how things work. This is why I made you CFO." The recording device felt hot in my pocket, though I knew it was just my imagination. Every word he spoke was another nail in his coffin. "What about the SEC filing?" he asked. "That needs to match." "Already handled," I assured him. "I used the same methods you showed Marcus before he retired." Alex's hand tightened on my shoulder for a moment. "Marcus made his choice. I'm glad you're making a smarter one. If he only knew." The board meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. At 1:30, I received a text from Agent Martinez. "Teams in position. Remember, let him present the false numbers first." I'd spent the morning quietly copying more files, documenting more transactions. The FBI now had evidence of over $3 billion in fraud, even more than I'd initially discovered. The rabbit hole went deeper than anyone had imagined. My phone buzzed. "Jennifer, Alex just asked me to verify the compliance certificates. It's happening." At 1:55, I gathered my materials and headed to the boardroom. Members of Summit's board were already gathering. Wealthy, powerful people who had no idea they were about to witness the beginning of the end. Alex stood at the head of the table, confident as ever in his $10,000 suit. "Sarah, why don't you start us off with the quarterly numbers?" I stood, hands steady as I connected my laptop to the projector. The fake spreadsheets appeared on screen, showing exactly what Alex wanted everyone to see. Strong growth, healthy profits, a thriving company. "As you can see," I began, "our third quarter shows significant growth across all divisions." Alex beamed as I walked through the lies he'd orchestrated. Board members nodded approvingly, some making notes. None of them questioned why our firm was doing so well while our competitors struggled. Then, exactly as planned, Alex took over. "These outstanding results," he said, "reflect our innovative investment strategies and unique market position." The recording device captured every word as he expanded on the false numbers, adding his own embellishments, digging his hole deeper with every sentence. My phone buzzed silently in my pocket. The signal from Martinez. FBI agents were now in position throughout the building. And with that, Alex concluded triumphantly, "I'll let Sarah explain our projections for Q4. I stood again, but this time I switched to a different file. "Actually," I said calmly, "I have some other numbers the board should see." Alex's smile froze as the real spreadsheets appeared on screen. "These are the actual transactions," I continued, my voice steady. showing $3.2 billion in fraudulent trades, phantom assets, and manufactured profits. The boardroom erupted in chaos. Alex lunged for my laptop, but I stepped back. "What are you doing?" he hissed. "My job," I replied. "The real one, not the criminal one you wanted me to do." The boardroom doors opened. Agent Martinez entered, followed by other FBI agents. "Alexander Blackwood," Martinez announced, "you're under arrest for securities fraud, wire fraud, and multiple violations of federal financial regulations." Alex's face went through a series of expressions: shock, rage, disbelief. "Sarah," he sputtered, "you naive little—" "Choose your next words carefully," Martinez cut in. "Everything in this room is being recorded." Board members sat in stunned silence as agents began securing computers and documents. Jennifer appeared in the doorway, carrying more evidence. "Ms. Reynolds has been working with us for the past week," Martinez explained to the board. "The fraud she uncovered is one of the largest we've seen since Bernie Madoff." Alex, being handcuffed, turned to glare at me. "I made you CFO," he spat. "I gave you everything." "No," I corrected him. "You gave me a choice between being criminal or being ethical. I chose ethical." As he was led away, I began explaining the real situation to the shell-shocked board. The fake trades, the hidden losses, the years of systematic fraud that had artificially inflated Summit Financial's worth. My phone started buzzing with news alerts. FBI raids Summit Financial. Major fraud uncovered at Chicago investment firm. CEO arrested in billion-dollar security scam. Jennifer joined me as the agents continued their work. "You okay?" I nodded, watching Alex being escorted to the office in handcuffs, his perfectly tailored suit suddenly looking like a costume. "Naive," I mused. He kept calling me naive for believing in ethics. And now he's learning about prison ethics. Jennifer smiled grimly. But this was just the beginning. The evidence we gathered would take months to fully process. Hundreds of clients would need to be notified, accounts would need to be audited, and the full extent of Alex's crimes would need to be documented. Agent Martinez approached with a thick stack of papers. "Ready to make your official statement?" I looked around at the office where I'd worked for so long, now swarming with federal agents. Ready to tell the whole truth. Alex had called me naive for believing in justice. He was about to learn just how wrong he'd been. 6 months after Alexander Blackwood was led out of Summit Financial in handcuffs, I sat in a federal courthouse, preparing to testify at his trial. The evidence we'd uncovered had blown up into the largest financial fraud case Chicago had seen in decades. "Ready?" Agent Martinez asked, reviewing his notes beside me. I nodded, watching Alex being led into the courtroom. His $10,000 suits had been replaced by department store clothing that somehow made him look smaller. But his eyes, when they met mine, still burned with the same arrogance. "The prosecution calls Sarah Reynolds," the judge announced. As I took the stand, I thought about how much had changed since that day in Alex's office when he'd called me naive for refusing to cook the books. The investigation had revealed fraud going back 15 years, totaling over $4.8 billion, far more than we'd initially discovered. "Ms. Reynolds," the prosecutor began, "please explain to the court how you first discovered the fraudulent activities at Summit Financial." For the next 3 hours, I laid out every detail. The fake trades, the phantom assets, the elaborate network of shell companies Alex had used to hide losses. I explained complex financial schemes in terms the jury could understand, watching their faces shift from confusion to shock to outrage. And Mr. Blackwood's response when you confronted him about these irregularities? He told me it was normal, I replied, that every major firm does it. He called me naive for questioning it. Alex's lawyer tried to paint me as a disgruntled employee, but the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings I'd made, the documentation Jennifer and I had gathered, the testimonies from other employees who'd come forward, it all told the same story. During a break in proceedings, Jennifer showed me the latest financial news on her tablet. Summit Financial Fraud claims more victims. 3 major banks implicated. FBI investigation expands to international financial networks. Whistleblower testimony reveals decade of systematic fraud. They're calling it the Chicago version of Enron, she said. I thought of Marcus Williams, my predecessor, who'd fled to Florida rather than face what he'd helped create. The FBI had found him, and he turned state's evidence, adding his testimony to the mountain of proof against Alex. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Each day revealed new depths of corruption, new layers of fraud that had permeated every level of Summit Financial. Board members who had nodded approvingly at Alex's false numbers now faced their own legal troubles. Finally, it was time for the verdict. On the charge of securities fraud, how do you find? Guilty. Wire fraud? Guilty. Money laundering? Guilty. 23 counts in total, 23 guilty verdicts. When the judge announced the sentence, 18 years in federal prison, Alex finally lost his composure. This is ridiculous, he shouted, jumping up. Everyone does it. I just got caught because some naive little. Mr. Blackwood, the judge cut in sharply, I suggest you stop talking. Your definition of normal business practices is precisely why you'll be spending the next 18 years in prison. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Ms. Reynolds, how does it feel to be vindicated? What made you decide to come forward? Are you worried about retaliation from others in the industry? I faced the cameras calmly. I did what any ethical professional should do. The real question is why more people don't speak up when they see fraud. The aftermath transformed the financial industry in Chicago. The SEC launched investigations into several other firms, and new regulations were proposed to prevent similar frauds. Summit Financial itself was dissolved, its legitimate assets sold off to repay defrauded investors. The magnificent office building where Alex had once ruled now housed other companies, the Summit name removed from its facade. A month after the trial, I received an unexpected call from Harvard Business School. They wanted me to give a guest lecture on corporate ethics and the importance of whistleblower protection. Standing in front of those students, I told them the real story, not just the fraud and its discovery, but the moral choice every financial professional eventually faces. There will come a moment, I explained, when someone asks you to cross a line. They'll tell you it's normal, that everyone does it. That's when you have to decide what kind of professional you want to be. The lecture was picked up by major business publications. Soon I was speaking at conferences, consulting with firms on ethical compliance, and helping draft new industry regulations. Not bad for someone naive, Jennifer commented after one such presentation. I smiled, remembering Alex's words. Turns out believing in ethics isn't naive. It's the only way this industry can survive. 1 year to the day after Alex's arrest, I received a letter from him. The prison return address made me smile. Sarah, he wrote, I still think you don't understand how business really works. But I have to admit, you played it smart. Smarter than me, in the end. I didn't reply. Instead, I framed the letter and hung it in my new office at the Financial Ethics Institute, where I now served as executive director. It served as a reminder that sometimes being naive means being strong enough to stand up for what's right. The press still called occasionally, wanting updates or comments on new financial scandals. They always asked if I regretted coming forward, if the personal cost had been too high. I would think of Alex in his prison cell, of the thousands of investors whose money we'd helped recover, of the young professionals who now had a roadmap for handling ethical dilemmas. The only cost, I would tell them, would have been staying silent. Marcus Williams called me from Florida, where he was serving his reduced sentence for cooperation. "You did what I should have done years ago," he said. "You stood up to him." It wasn't just me, I reminded him. It was everyone who came forward after, everyone who chose truth over comfort. The financial industry was changing, slowly but surely. New compliance protocols were being implemented, inspired by what we'd uncovered at Summit. Young analysts were being trained to spot and report fraud, rather than hide it. One evening, as I was leaving my office, I ran into one of the Harvard students who'd attended my lecture. She was now working as a junior analyst at a major bank. "I almost compromised today," she told me. "My manager wanted me to hide some losses, but I remembered your story. I reported it instead. That, more than anything, made it all worthwhile." Alex had called me naive for believing in justice, for thinking one person could stand up against systemic corruption. Now he had 18 years in federal prison to think about who had really been naive: the whistleblower who exposed the truth, or the criminal who thought he'd never be caught. As for me, I kept the recording device Agent Martinez had given me, framed alongside Alex's letter and the first newspaper article about the case. Together, they told a story not just about fraud and justice, but about the choice we all face between what's easy and what's right. Sometimes being naive means being brave enough to believe that truth matters, that justice is possible, that one person's stand can change an entire industry. And sometimes, as Alex learned from his prison cell, the people you dismiss as naive turn out to be the ones who bring your empire crumbling down.